Michael, you are an expert in not just strategic advice and coaching and business advisory, but specifically family businesses. You come from a family business. I come from a family business. Um, what do you see being some of the challenges in family businesses today?
I think the challenges today are no different than they were 50 years ago and 60 years ago over the decades. The families that really run into trouble often have allow emotional based decisions override fact based decisions.
Right.
That's the classic areas that families get into trouble.
I've lived that experience myself. It took me a very long time to get to where I am today because the early days in the family business was limiting. It didn't help me grow and build. It was exactly that story, which is, all right, you're going to work for the business. I actually started to perform well and do well, but in a lot of regards, um, if I was to advise that again, I would have taken different advice. I think maybe force more academic education, maybe force me to go work somewhere else for a little bit before coming and working in the family business, right?
And it was your father who founded your business.
My father founded the business, a very brilliant man, and unfortunately, he passed away in 2011.
Sorry
Suddenly,
to hear that.
it's okay, thank you. Which now put me in a position that I think that was my tipping point in my career, which was like, okay, there's no more parental figure here. There's no one coming to rescue. There's no one that's going to say, okay, we'll give you more money. There's no one that will say, well, I'll deal with it. It's all on me, which was a scary time, but doubled down and learning and trying to get mentorship and coaching as much as I could. And, struggled for the first few years because when he passed, the business was in severe debt and had lots of sort of, things out against it. And being very young and naive and unschooled and uneducated in business, I didn't know that you could bankrupt the incorporation. So I remortgaged my house, took out a loan, paid it all back, caught everyone. It took me about 5 years
Wow,
of
great.
paying it.
Good for you. A lot of learning along the way.
A lot of learning over the way. That part I wouldn't trade. It was difficult at the time, but it was today. It's part of the resilience and the growth that I've gone through. I mean,
Absolutely.
today, you asked me to read a P&L, a balance sheet, no problem, right? Today, you asked me to understand numbers. I used to be afraid of looking at the bank accounts. I didn't want to log in to see the bank account, right? Um, and cash flow and the whole sort of nine. So, I think in a lot of regards, he was an incredible mentor and he was a very brilliant dude in so many ways. But I had to go through the school of hard knocks when it came down to business. And in some regards, and I said, my mother also has a family business. And I've said to her in the past, I think, one of the more important things we could have done for us as kids is sent us out, go and work outside in the world and then come back to the family business, right? Go get some controller experience and then come back and be the controller.
Yeah. But good families that do some right things do exactly that.
Right.
That you're allowed to come into this family business, but not until you go and work elsewhere for 2 to 3 years to understand accountability, to understand reporting, sharpen your business acumen skills somewhere else, not at the expense of the family business. And that you come to the when you're ready, if you want to, you come to the table with something, you bring something to the table.
Yeah. Yeah. What about the other way? I mean, the way I started was basically on quotations in the mailroom, literally, like, and fought my way up, fought my way from that to administration into some junior sales, like booking appointments, into doing corporate sales, into facilitation. Does that approach work as well?
It can. It's a tour of duty in different functional areas. It can. I would still advocate for working elsewhere before you come in. And there are many parents or grandparents or patriarchs, matriarchs of businesses that often say you have to learn every aspect of the business.
Right,
And sometimes it can work, and many times it's beneficial if the scale of the business is approachable.
right,
As businesses become larger, and depending on what generation we're talking about, it's often much more difficult to do that because the entry point for child, grandchild, great grandchild into a business that's larger has to be at the ground floor. And you simply don't have the the sort of availability to work and do the tour of duty in different functional areas.
Right.
So
Right.
it's sort of size specific, complexity specific. It can work though, depending on the size of the business.
Yeah. I think it again comes down to the being very intentional in what those decisions are, and not getting a free pass. I think I'll paraphrase it.
Absolutely, and that's entitlement. And nepotism. So that's where nepotism creeps into the behaviors and decision making, and which hurts the family member, and of course hurts the non-family management people.
Right. Right. Well, what people don't realize about family businesses is the meeting never ends. Right? You meet all day, and then you go home and you meet all day, or you're at the cottage meeting all day.
Yeah, I often say it's management at the kitchen table.
Truly is. Truly is. Which in some cases, and my wife went through this because she worked for a couple family businesses, and obviously was part of the executive teams where you have a seat at the table, but you don't have a seat at the table in some capacity.
And that's where facts have to override emotions. And seat at the table is fact based. There are managers and leaders helping drive the business that aren't family members, depending on the size. But it's near to impossible to find only family members to drive the long term success of a business.
Yep.
You have most leaders have no choice but to bring in non-family members in different roles and subject matter expert roles to drive the business.
I think that also keeps things neutral and
Objective and professional.